the Miami hustle, just hustling. Like meeting the right people and knowing, like I don't go out just to go out. If I'm out, it's because I know there's an opportunity. Like I'm not just gonna be out because it's a Friday. Like we're at the booby trap because it's no. If I'm gonna be somewhere, it's because Ye is there. If I'm gonna go, it's because Floyd Mayweather is there. You know what I mean? Like you have to have a purpose. I'm so nervous.
So today we got Miss Foss. You want me to call you Miss Foss or not?
You know what's funny when you call me Miss Foss? We'll get into it, but I used to be a teacher, so
I didn't even know that.
I've been called Miss Foss for years, so I'm used to it.
All right, cool. Well, she's an artist now, so we have Foss in the building. You already know, and if you don't know, she's a huge artist. She's worked with a lot of celebrities, a lot of athletes. She's very well respected, well connected. So, shout out to Foss. Thank you for your time. First of all,
Thank
we
you for
appreciate
having me.
So, I want to shout out a couple of your artwork before we get started.
Okay.
We have the rainbow Rolex over there. It's a beautiful piece.
The Daytona Rolex.
The Daytona Rolex. Yeah. Beautiful piece. Oh, by the way, this is not photography. This is actual art. You actually like drew this, right? You painted it?
I painted it, yeah.
Amazing.
It's acrylic.
I mean, it looks very real.
Realism is one of my strengths. Like different artists, they have, like different disciplines that they have their expertise in. So realism, portraits are really like my expertise. I do other things, but yeah, realism I feel like is where you can really see like my actual like technical skill. As an artist.
I could imagine your portraits are amazing because when I saw your art, I thought it was photography. I thought you were also a photographer. We have the Patek over here, this beautiful piece, and then we also have. I want to show everyone this beautiful piece that you brought because speaking of realism, this is what I thought was a photograph, but this is actually
It's funny you
art
say that because when I
she drew.
posted this on my Instagram, when I finished it and I posted, another friend of mine who's an artist was like, you killed that piece. He was like, I thought it was like a photograph, like an actual photograph, not a painting. So I put a lot of love into this one. This one was inspired by the Bad Bunny record, the song he did, Habiki, off the new album.
Nice. Well, shout out Bad Bunny. You're an inspiration.
Of course. Music is a big inspiration in a lot of my work.
Nice. That's amazing. Yeah, this looks like a high quality photograph. So the fact that you drew this with your own hands is amazing to me.
Thank you.
What type of paint did you use?
Acrylic.
Nice.
Yeah. I've never used oil. I kind of am thinking about maybe exploring with a lot of people who do portraits do use oil instead of acrylic because oil paint, it like blends a lot easier. So it's easier to do realism using oil paint, but it dries very slowly, so it takes longer. But maybe one day I'll try oil. Right now I'm just an acrylic artist.
How long does a piece like this take you to make?
You know what? I've never, and I should, because people ask that kind of question all the time. Like, how long does it take you to paint something like that? Definitely tens of hours. I don't know exactly if it was 90 hours, 100 hours, 100 plus. I want to start when I'm painting, like recording it, because I really should. But that one was definitely, I would say, like at least 50, because I know I sat and worked on it for maybe like 10 hours a day, multiple days. So
yeah, so it's more of like a project. It's not just something that
it's not like a start to finish. So it's like a process. It's first like deciding on what I want to paint. When I got the idea I like to paint bottles. That's the second or third bottle that I've painted. I painted a gin bottle for this gin company once. And there are certain things that I enjoy painting because they're challenging. Like watches are challenging. Bottles are challenging. Anything that has a lot of like reflection in it is challenging. And as a painter, it's like you like to paint things that are challenging. It might be hard to explain to somebody who's not an artist, like why would one thing be harder to paint than another? But certain things, like for example, when you're doing portraits, like hands. Hands are a very time-consuming thing to paint. They're a lot harder to paint than, say, like, lips, .
That's
I forget where I
interesting.
was going with this.
No,
like,
yeah, you're breaking it
train
down.
of thought.
This is-
It's like,
this is
oh, about the
technical.
vein, the bottle. So it's like a process. So it's like you decide on it, then you sketch it out. Then it's like you have to do like just like base colors, and then it's like layers and layers and layers and blending and looking at it, and then like sitting with it and walking away from it for a few days because you're like, ugh, I don't even want to look at that piece. And then you kind of get the little itch back again. And you're like, okay, I'm going to work on the bottle today. And then you have a day when you're like, I don't even want to look at the bottle today. You know?
That's awesome.
So-
Yeah, no, I'm
It's good to go back and revisit a piece anyways. Like, okay, like now I want to touch it up here after being
Yeah, and
able to,
sometimes
with
you
fresh
think,
eyes. You get to see
sometimes you'll,
something.
exactly, the fresh eyes. Sometimes you'll think you're done a piece, and I'll kind of say, like, let me sit on it for like a couple days and look at it. And then like you might decide like, I don't like the way that looks. I'm going to change that part, or that shading needs fixing.
Yeah.
It happens a lot more with a portrait. You know what I mean?
gotcha.
Like you might look at the nose and be like, something's off.
Realism to me is the hardest form of art. Like you can't mess up because it's not gonna look realistic. So like the fact that you're
For
able
sure.
to get the lighting right on like this Daytona watch, like and all the little gems on the sides, like
This
it's pretty
this
crazy.
piece was a labor of love. Like
I could-
halfway
I could-
through it, I was like, bro, who told me that this was a good idea?
I could tell like each of those diamonds. You could tell specifically like you got the angle right of the light that was coming towards
The colored
it, like,
diamonds was a lot of work.
I could tell.
It was a lot of work. It was like I went through moments of like being very frustrated with it, then looking at it and being like, damn, I did that. This shit looks fire.
It looks like a.
I'm sorry I cursed. I don't know if I can.
No, you
No,
can
you-
curse.
Okay, that's okay.
Curse more.
express yourself however you want.
No, I just want to respect the, you
Sure.
know, the podcast. But I do remember like looking at it at one day when I was doing the colored diamonds, and I was like, who told me to do this? But then when I was done, I was proud of it because it was challenging.
Yeah.
There are certain like colors are hard. Blending colors is hard.
I was just gonna say, even the way that like yellow blends to orange to then slowly blends to red is the fact that
yeah.
you
It
did
was
that is amazing.
it was a difficult piece. It was
Speaking
definitely a
of
challenging
difficult pieces, I wanna show off another piece of, or one of your many pieces of artwork that you do, which is basketball hoops.
The custom
which I'm a huge
basketball
fan
hoops.
of. We got a
got
basketball hoop here, so I want to show this off a little bit. What I love about it specifically, aside from it being, you know, super creative, and I've never seen anything like this, so I'm a big fan of basketball and mini hoops. I love the fact that it's a chain net. So
I make these by hand.
We saw a video of that.
I
Yeah,
told
yeah.
him. I told him. Like he said, he was looking for chain nets for this rim. I was like, the reason you can't find it is because she made it from
Yeah,
scratch.
they're
And then
handcrafted. I
found-
make them. I get
yeah.
the chain
I saw
from
the
Home
video
Depot.
on your IG of you making
And,
it. Like, it's impressive.
Yeah, it's not hard. You know, it's the
I'm telling
actually
you,
I have
literally
like a
looked everywhere
story.
for it, and I can't find it. So this is
I
as
don't know if you
original
can
as it gets, and I just want
buy
to let the
them.
people to listen.
No, you can't. But how did you know to do it yourself? Like you just decided to buy chain and then like, oh, like I know
So
how
there's
to
a
make
little bit of a story. When I first started making these hoops, I know, isn't this sound so
I love it. It's the
like
best.
satisfying
When I was a kid, I made sure I had a chain net in my
for the
backyard.
sound?
Just
Yeah,
for the
it's
sound.
super
Yeah.
satisfying. So when I first started making these, I actually used to order the chain nets from a guy off Etsy who had like an Etsy shop, and he made them. And I had put in an order for like 3 of the chain nets for, I don't remember if I had an art show or an event or something. And something happened and the guy got locked out of his Etsy account. And so he couldn't get into the account to like process the order. And I'm like, I'm emailing the guy and I'm writing to him and I'm like, I need these, I have a show. So I just, out of necessity, like they always say, like necessity is the mother of invention.
Wow.
He ended up after the fact hitting me up and he was like, I'm so sorry, I got locked out of my Etsy account. That's why I wasn't able to process your order. And I was like, it's fine, just cancel it. I figured it out on my own. I just went out, I bought the chain, and I might have even like YouTubed like a basketball net or something. And I kind of just, I'm pretty mechanically inclined. So I figured it out like that. And I like the way I make them a lot better than the way he did. You know, like he did a good job with his. I liked his, but I like mine better.
I thought you
So now
bought
I
it.
make them all on my own.
It looks like you bought it, honestly. So.
Yeah, honestly, I'll take one. for
And the
sure.
cool thing is you can adjust
I
the
would love
length.
to
So like if you
have
want
a
it to be
net.
like a little bit longer, I could have added like you know what I'm saying?
I would
I-
love to have a chain net.
I can
So
do the different color. I got
anybody
you.
looking
Well-
for mini hoop chain nets?
We're commissioning her for a Miami
you
Hustle
guys.
basketball hoop, no doubt.
Most
sure.
of the hoops that I do are custom. This one I just did on my own when Virgil came out with so obviously this is like inspired by Off-White, with the X, which is like the Off-White logo. But then Virgil came up with this, which is called the Swimming Man. that's like another off-white logo that he came up with, and I really liked it. And I just came up with the idea to do the off-white. But most of the basketball hoops I do are custom commissions of people's logos, whether it's like, like a rapper, whether it's like their label or a store or, whatever like logo somebody has. Or I just did one for a smoke shop for a guy, and his smoke shop was called Joker Smoker, so it was like a Joker. And
Nice.
now I do them a lot more intricately too. Now I backlight them because I've been doing it longer. So
That's awesome.
I try to
That's
like
so sick.
elevate
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
so now like that's one of the options is like you can have it backlit with LED lighting.
Wow.
It's plywood.
Yeah, it's wood.
So how did you come up with this? Where was the inspiration behind these hoops? When did you make the first one, and then how did that lead to you making more?
That's a good question. I think the first hoop I did might be the one I did for Rick Ross, the Bel Air champagne bottle. I don't know where I got the idea for, because I'm really not even that big of a basketball fan, to be honest. I'm a football fan. I like basketball just fine, but I'm not going to sit down and be like, yes, let's watch this basketball game. I'm more so like, let's watch this football game. So I'm not even, and I'm terrible. I try and every time I make one and I post a video, I'll always, as part of like what I upload onto my Instagram, I always make a video shooting and I put it in slow-mo because it looks good and then the sound. But I shoot like 45 shots before I get one in. I'm terrible. Terrible.
It's not easy.
No, it's not. It's really not.
It's all about the wrist. I mean, I shoot a lot all day.
I'm not good.
Yeah, whenever I feel like I'm like stressed or I'm anxious about something, I just grab my 10 basketballs that I have here and I just start shooting.
Yeah, well, we'll get you a custom Miami Hustle one. You need a custom one with the logo and.
Yeah, I would love one, honestly.
Yeah.
So, you said your first one was for Rick Ross, and then how did
It
you feel
might have
about
been.
it?
I don't even.
Like, did
I
everyone
don't
love it?
remember where I.
Like
Yes.
Rick Ross inspired or for Rick Ross?
No, it was for Rick Ross.
That's so cool. That's fire.
That's a
What?
good start.
What?
I
How does
painted-
that materialize?
I actually met Rick Ross a long, long, long time ago at South by Southwest because my ex-boyfriend was touring with him as his drummer at the time.
Whoa.
And then it kind of just like came full circle. Like now that I
Yeah,
live in Miami,
it's
I
who you
saw him
know.
again and it just ended up happening. But I don't remember which was the first one I made or where I necessarily got the idea. It was more so I was making the piece and I was like, I want to mount a basketball hoop on this and like make it functional. Just always kind of trying to elevate the art, have it look cool on the wall, but have it be functional. Like you can shoot at it if you want to. Most people say, I don't want to shoot at it. Like, no, I just want it to look nice. I don't want to ruin it. But they're functioning basketball hoops. So if you want to, you really can shoot at them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be shooting.
And they're
all day.
made to be like,
No,
I
it's
resin them
sturdy.
so that, they're sturdy.
Yeah.
I epoxy resin coat them so you can like clean it if you need to. So
That's amazing.
It's
So
as top tier as it gets, honestly.
yeah, your art is definitely one of one. Very unique, very real.
most of it is one. Most of what I do are one of ones. I do also do prints. So I have certain pieces that I get prints made. Basically, I don't know if you know the difference between like an original and a print. So for example, that's the original Hibiki painting. What I could do is I could take that to a place, they scan it in a big machine. You can also take a picture of it, but the quality is better if you scan it. So they put it in this big machine, they scan it, and then I can get it printed, and then you could buy a print of it. So if you don't want to invest $7,000 in an original piece, you might like the piece, but let's say you just want to spend a couple $100. You don't want to make that big of an investment. Prints are a great way to offer your art, like at different price points.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not everybody wants to drop thousands of dollars on a piece, but they might say, I love your work, I would like a print.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's way cooler to see the brushstroke, like feel the brushstrokes on the.
Well,
on the
that's why an
canvas.
original is more money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the
Definitely.
original is like the whole. Like some artists don't even sell their originals. Certain artists they don't sell them at all. They
Makes
hold on
sense.
to them and they let them appreciate over time.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the art game is something that we'll get into. But before I ask you how you got into the art game and how you became an artist, where were you born and raised? Like, where are you from?
I was born and raised in Sterling, Massachusetts. It's like a small town an hour outside of Boston. And actually, a really cool thing is that today, do you guys know who Jay Cutler is? Not the football player Jay Cutler, the weightlifter Jay Cutler?
No. I
No?
know Jay Cutler, the football player.
Okay. Well, if you were to Google him, you would immediately know. He won like Mr. Olympia. He's like a big bodybuilder guy.
All right.
Arnold Schwarzenegger just gave him like a Lifetime Achievement Award yesterday. And I had reposted on my story today because he's from the same small town that I'm from. It's called Massachusetts. It's just like a small rural town. There's lots of like farms and apple orchards, and it's really like the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not from a big city or anything, but
So how did you end up in Miami?
so I decided to move to Miami about 2.5 years ago to pursue my art. I always wanted to do my art full time. I like I said, so my background is not, I don't have an art background. I'm self-taught. So I didn't go to school for art. I didn't take any sort of classes. It's just like a God-given talent that I have.
Did you discover that at a young age?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom said I had an aptitude for art and painting when I was about 2 is when it started. And I watched Bob Ross. Do you know who Bob Ross is? Okay, so we know Bob Ross. Good.
Happy Strokes.
Happy Little Trees, yeah. I watched Bob Ross obsessively when I was a little kid.
Sure.
And at the age of 2, I would tell my mom, so she kind of, she let me develop that skill. You know what I mean? She was like, okay, she likes the art, I'll get her the stuff. So she just let me go into it.
And how were your skills back then as a kid drawing?
My art
Did you
skills were
stand out?
always
I'm
no. My
assuming-
art skills were always good. So like I always won like little art awards as a kid, or like did like drawing contests. Like I always just, it's like somebody who's born with like a beautiful voice, with just like a God-given ability to sing, like
But-
Adele or Christina Aguilera or somebody like that.
And then I'm guessing throughout life, it was always just like a hobby.
Yeah, so it was like a hobby. So like I said, I don't have an art background. I actually have. I went to college. I went to UMass Amherst. I have my bachelor's degree in hospitality, tourism management, and Spanish. I double majored. And then I got my master's degree in education in Spanish. And I taught high school Spanish in a public high school for 13 years in Massachusetts.
Damn,
And
so you,
Whoa.
people are like, you were a teacher? I'm like, yes. That's why when you're like, can I
Spanish
call
teacher.
you Miss Foss? I'm like, people called me Miss Foss for 13 years. That was my name as a teacher.
but I
Miss
didn't
Foss.
expect you to be a Spanish teacher.
Yeah, I taught
from
Spanish.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, I'm not Latina, but I'm
Wow.
bilingual.
What?
You don't,
How did,
you
how
don't
did,
have any Hispanic, like,
No.
no?
how did you even
I'm
get
mostly
it?
Irish, which is like the main.
So why the
Like in Massachusetts
fascination
mostly.
with Spanish?
Honestly, well, okay, so where I'm from, there are not a lot of Hispanic people, but the closest city to where I'm from is called Leominster, and there's a really big Puerto Rican population there. So like when we used to go to the grocery store when I was a kid, I would hear like all the Puerto Rican people speaking Spanish, and I just loved the way it sounded. And I would like, me and my sister would like, we would pretend to talk, like pretend that we were talking in Spanish. And I always said like, one day I'm going to be able to speak that language. And I just, like, I really just had a desire to learn to speak Spanish.
That's amazing because
So I learned.
you're already super successful with that. Something you put your mind to, which is not only learn Spanish, but you
Yeah.
started teaching Spanish for over 10 years.
You can do
said?
anything you put your mind to, especially if you really have the desire. If you really want to do something, you're going to do it. So I really had a desire to learn Spanish. So obviously in school, you get to choose your foreign language. I took Spanish. I just had like a knack for it. I had a good ear for it. So I took all the classes. My senior year of high school, Spanish AP, so Advanced Placement Spanish 5 wasn't offered. Not enough people wanted to take it, so they didn't run the course. But the head of the foreign language department, she let me do it independently. So she ordered all the material and she let me do it just at home. And I took the AP exam and I got a perfect score.
Wow.
And I just really had the desire to learn it. You know what I mean? But all my friends were Puerto
Shout out to
Rican.
you.
I hung out, I had a lot of ex-boyfriend, a lot of Puerto Rican ex-boyfriends. I would travel. So I just really immersed myself in it. And by the time I graduated high school, I was almost bilingual. Not as much as I am now, but I was like very advanced in the language because I really wanted to learn how to speak it. So I made it a priority.
I respect that because clearly you're a go-getter and you're a hustler.
And
we
you don't
haven't-
speak Spanish, right?
I speak Spanish, of course. I speak
I thought you
Spanish.
told me you didn't.
No, I do. Just not as often as I should.
Yeah.
But I speak Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but I'm Cuban on both sides. So
Right.
for me not to speak Spanish would be crazy.
Would be
For
crazy,
you
right.
not to speak Spanish is just like whatever.
Living in Miami, you have to speak Spanish. I feel like
But you didn't do that in Miami though. You recently came to Miami.
no. I spoke Spanish
So-
before I moved to Miami because
Yeah,
I was a
so,
high school
yeah.
teacher. That's what I taught was Spanish. I taught high school Spanish. I was a foreign exchange student. I lived in Costa Rica,
She
I
was-
did all the things. I did all the things in
Yeah,
school
you
to
go
like really
after
learn.
what you want. For
She-
sure. And we haven't even
Absolutely.
started talking about art yet.
But that's
So-
my personality. I'm a very black and white person. Like I'm either like obsessed or I'm not interested at all. There's no gray area.
So how were you feeling when you were a teacher for how many years?
13 years.
13 years you were a teacher, and shout out to you again, because that's a success story within itself. I mean, that's amazing. But you had this itch to do art full time. How was that
I
for
did.
you? And
I don't
what
wanna
made
say
you take
that
that
I-
leap of faith?
You know what? I was really scared to do it for a long time. I don't want to say I hated being a teacher because I did have moments during my career as a teacher where I did find very fulfilling moments in that. You know what I mean? I'm still in contact with a lot of my former students. Some of them are even art collectors of mine. A lot of them follow me on Instagram, and like we've maintained like a relationship over time. So there were parts of it that I enjoyed, but it was like I always knew it was not what I was born to do. Like I was not born to be a high school teacher. Like it just wasn't me. I feel like every day it was almost like I had to like zip myself into a suit that I didn't really fit into. But sometimes you get comfortable. You know, teachers are paid well in Massachusetts. They're not paid very well in Florida, and also on the pay scale, I had a master's degree plus 15. So that means I got my master's degree, but also had an additional 15 course credits. So that puts you on a certain part of the pay scale. So the money was great. The time off is great. You know, you get benefits, retirement, you get your whole summer vacation paid. You only work 180 days a year as a teacher, but you get paid all year. So you get comfortable. So I was comfortable just having a job, having a paycheck, having a steady life. And you kind of just like fall into this rut of like comfort, right? But I always was like, this is not what I want to do. This is not, because it's so monotonous. Being a teacher, you literally do the same thing. Think about it. You teach like 6 classes a day, the same lesson, 6 times. And then it's like every year it just repeats itself. The students change, the kids in front of you are different, but it's so once you're so many years in, like I could literally close my eyes and be like, all right, on page 15 of the book, on this side, there's going to be a this. It's so monotonous. It's repetitious over and over and over again. And I hated the monotony of that. I just like, it killed me.
Art is definitely
But I
the
was
opposite,
scared. I was
so-
scared to take the leap. So I just did the art like on the side. And I always kind of had good connections. So even while I was teaching, like my first big piece I ever really did was for Janoris Jenkins. He's retired from the NFL now, but he was a very, very successful defensive player in the NFL, and I did a portrait for him. That was like my first really like famous client, like thousands of dollars for a piece. But I was still teaching. You know, I didn't feel like ready to like take the leap. And then it just kind of just like life happened. I had a boyfriend that I met in Cuba. His family finally ended up coming to the United States. They were here in Miami, so it was kind of like made sense. Like, okay, I'll move to Miami so that we can finally like be together, because it was a long distance relationship. The first couple of years he lived in Cuba and I traveled back and forth and basically had a whole life there in Cuba.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I like
That's a
low-key
whole-
lived in
that's
Cuba
a
for
whole
like
story in
that could be a
2
whole
years.
podcast.
That's a
Yeah,
curveball.
like 2 years,
Hold on.
not 2 years consecutively, because as an American, you can't stay in Cuba more than a certain amount of time without leaving and re-entering because of your visa. But it was basically like I lived there for like 2
So
years.
how are
Yeah.
you living in Cuba and also teaching? Would you just...
Because as a teacher, you have so much time off.
You get the
Think
whole
about
summer
it. You
off.
have 3 months off in the summer. You have like Thanksgiving break. You have all of the federal holidays, so like President's Day, Memorial Day weekend.
So
all
you're
of those.
so you're still like
Then you
living
have
here but traveling there a
Christmas
lot.
vacation. You have February vacation. You have April vacation. You have sick days.
So you're just like in and out basically.
In and out. I filled an entire passport with pink Cuban stamps.
How was living in Cuba, and were you doing art at the time too?
I did no art in Cuba.
Okay.
No. When I was there, I was just like, it was like another world. It's a very beautiful, intoxicating place. Not beautiful like in terms of the infrastructure, the way it actually looks. Just the people and the spirit of Cuba is
Sure.
beautiful. The country itself is falling apart because it has a terrible government. And the people really suffer because of that. But the people there are really I don't know how to explain it. I feel like everybody should go to Cuba at least once in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And it will change you. And it will make you so appreciative of the small things that people take for granted, like electricity, running water, comfortable furniture, transportation, food variety. Here in Miami, you can eat whatever you want. In certain places, you have to eat the same thing every day. You know what I mean? Like there is no like today we're gonna get pizza, tomorrow we're gonna have Chinese food, the next day we're gonna whatever you want. They're like no.
Yeah.
You know, we're really blessed.
We are blessed. In America, we have it way too easy. Over there, those people know struggle.
Way too easy.
So they're probably way more
nothing
humble.
In Cuba is easy. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
That's a huge move for you, though, knowing all of that and seeing how it is in Cuba. The fact that you kept going in and out of there, how was it going in and out constantly? Like, did they ever give you any issues? One time
I got stopped in the airport because I was going so often. I was going at least once a month. At least. Even if it was just for, I mean, I was crazy. I was in love. So it was like, even if I would fly out on a Friday night when I got out of work and fly home on a Sunday to be there just like Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday, I did it.
That's love, I guess.
That's love.
Shit.
But it was fun too. It was like when you go in Cuba, it's like you're in a different world. It's like going back in time. It's still 1959 there. So it was like, there was just something about it that was very intoxicating. But I wasn't working or anything. But it was definitely, I mean, it was crazy. It like one day you're like, in America, all the technology, all the things, driving your car, and then the next day you're landing in Cuba on like a horse and buggy. You know what I mean? Like back in time, like there's no internet, there's no lights.
Wow.
Yeah. But one time they stopped me and asked me. They kind of put me in a separate room. Have you ever been to Cuba?
No.
So in the airport, I mean, there's like one airport, and they did stop me and ask me like, why are you like, what are you doing? Are you you know, because it's not normal for an American person to be going to Cuba at least once a month, every single month, consecutively for 2 years. But the person that I was with was a very well-known entertainer there. So once I explained that, they were kind of like, okay, like, we get it.
She's
like,
not a spy, guys.
Yeah, like they knew who knew who he was, and it was kind of like, they were like, all right, she's not doing something weird. Once I kind of explained, like, this is who I'm visiting, this is where I'm staying, because you have to register everything in Cuba. You can't just, even you yourself, like, let's say you want to sleep at his house tonight in Cuba, you can't just sleep at his house. You have to sign a book.
Stop it.
Swear to God.
Whoa, that's
you have
crazy.
to sign a book with your information, with your ID, with all this, so the government knows, like, where you are. It's wild.
It's like Southeastern, bro.
It's communism. It's communism.
No, so yeah, no, that's
Communism.
that's a
it's
crazy
total
story.
government control.
Yeah, we're definitely blessed. And so when it comes to you going through all of that, and you still haven't taken art serious at this point, like, you haven't taken that leap. So
at that point, I hadn't. When I was going back and forth to Cuba, I was still working as a full-time teacher and just traveling on my vacations. And like I said, like, being crazy and literally doing like a 24-hour turnaround just to go and keep the relationship going.
Before we talk about you taking that leap, how was it being, you know, like a hustler within the art before you were comfortable enough to take that leap? Like, how is it being a teacher and then also dedicating time to your art, creating the art, and then also dedicating time to try to sell your art?
I wasn't really selling a lot of art when I was a teacher necessarily. I was more so doing things on like a commission basis. So like I did that portrait for Janoris because he commissioned me to do it. So it wasn't like I was painting the way I'm painting now, and I wasn't really focused on selling it either because...
But like, how did people know about you?
Yeah, how did you showcase? Like, how did
I think on Instagram. Okay. Just like on Instagram, and then, you know, you gain a little bit of traction. So you start. I used to paint during my free periods at school. Actually, if you look on my Instagram, there's this picture of this jacket I painted, a portrait of DMX on a denim jacket. I'm a big DMX fan, and when he died, I was sad, and so I wanted to like do a piece that on, and I painted the jacket during my free periods. As a teacher, you're not teaching the entire day. You know, you teach like 6 or 7 classes, and then you have 1 or 2 free periods where you can, you know, like do grading or do whatever. I would sit at my desk during my free periods and I would paint. That's what I always would do. I would literally like bring canvases, and then my students would always come and be like, "What are you working on?" So
you
know, I was like the cool teacher.
You were the favorite.
So you were
I was
always
the cool
an artist.
teacher.
I'm surprised you weren't an art teacher. You ever thought about that?
No, people always say that when I tell them I used to be a teacher. They're like, "Oh, did you teach art?" And I say, "No. I don't have the credentials to teach art. To be a teacher, you have to get a license in the subject matter you're teaching." So I really don't have any, other than the fact that I'm good at it because it's just like a talent I have, but I don't have any sort of like art background where I could legally be an art teacher. Like, I can legally teach Spanish because I have a master's degree, I've passed the MTEL, I've done all those things. But when it comes to art, like, my credentials are like, look at it.
Isn't that kind of
like,
dumb? Isn't that kind of dumb
it.
though? Like, obviously you shit on probably a ton of art teachers. Like,
Yeah,
look how
but
good
yeah.
your work
I'm sure
is.
that some people don't know how to teach it, and with students, you got to know how to teach it because that's what you're a teacher for.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
just
I guess,
with the
yeah,
laws.
that's
You
the
have to
part of
have
it.
the license. I mean, if I wanted to, I could probably study a little bit and get the license to teach art. But I don't want to be. That's the thing is, I don't want to teach people how to do art. I don't have the pay. Like, I don't even know how I do it. When people ask me, my sister asks me all the time when I do portraits. She's like, "How do you do it?" I'm like, "I don't know. I look at the picture, like whatever the reference is, whether it's the bottle or if it's a person. I look at the reference, and then I paint it and make it look the same. I don't know how I do it, but that's just my process. It's
Yeah.
Have
like
you ever taken any
just-
lessons, any classes?
No,
Wow. So self-taught for real.
it's just self-taught. I mean, Bob Ross was my lesson growing up. I listened to Bob Ross. I watched Bob Ross.
I like to call it flow state. Once you like get into the zone, like,
Yeah.
like you just
And
get
I've
lost
noticed
in
that
it.
over time too, each time I do something, I get better. So each portrait I do is better than the last one. Just like anything, repetition,
Yeah.
you get better. Each
Putting-
time
you're
you
putting
get
your
better,
hours in.
get better, get better, get better. I'm working on my biggest piece I've ever done. So it's like 6 feet by 5 feet. So in terms of like actual size, it's the biggest piece I've ever done. It's the biggest piece I've done in terms of like the ticket. It's the most expensive piece I've ever done. And it's the first time I've done a painting that isn't just like one thing. So for example, like this is just like the watch, or that's just the Hibiki bottle. This piece I'm doing right now is for two brothers. The title of the painting is Defy the Odds. I'll be releasing it soon. It's not done yet.
Yeah.
I'm almost done. But it's the first time I do a piece that tells a story. So it's for these two brothers, the professional football players that, defied the odds. They grew up in a very rough time during the crack epidemic in Washington, D.C., foster care, very, very hard life. And they both were able to like rise above it and become Pro Bowler, NFL, like major, and now very successful businessmen now that they're not playing anymore, that they're both retired. But the painting, it's a double portrait. So I've already painted one brother. I'm working on the other one. And then also it has like the whole Washington, D.C. skyline. I painted bullet holes in the canvas, drugs, crack pipes, all the NFL logos of the teams that they played for, their high school team. So it's my first time telling a story through my art. I've never done that yet.
Yeah,
I've
it's
just
almost-
done like I said, like I wanted to paint the watch, but it doesn't tell a story. Like this painting literally tells the story of their life from childhood to college to NFL and beyond.
It's like a mural, right?
Kind of, yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's big. It's my biggest
6
piece.
feet by 5
6
feet
feet
is
wide by
huge.
5. It's huge. It
Yeah.
doesn't fit in my car. I had to shout out to my guy Jo Artwork. I have a friend here. The art community in Miami is really great, by the way. I've been very blessed since I've moved to Miami. I've found a lot of friends within the art community that are very supportive and like they share gems of knowledge with one another. It's not like this cutthroat, like I'm gonna fuck you over. It's a very, and I'm sure there is some of that as well. But I personally have been very blessed to find people here in Miami in the art community that are the most supportive, like, they've been in it longer than I have, and so they give me little gems of advice, or like I just said, shout out my guy Jo. He has this big van, and I'm like, yo, I need you to go pick up this canvas for me, bro. I'm doing my biggest piece, and he was like, Foss, let's get it. He was like, I got you. Like I throw him some gas money. He got the canvas for me, brought it to my house. And that's really what it's all about, because it's like nobody knows the struggle of being a full-time artist more than another artist. It's not easy. It's not an easy job. It is not a stable job. It is physically demanding. Like I'm carrying all this shit, loading my car, wrapping it, unwrapping it. Like it's hard.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I don't want
there's
to
a
be
lot
all like, oh, woe is me. Being an artist is hard, but it's a lot harder than I thought it would be, to be honest.
I'm sure there's a lot of behind the scenes as an artist. Like you said, it's not only the creative process, but then putting it on a canvas, but then it's also running around with equipment, buying equipment, investing in yourself, putting in those countless
And
hours.
it's hard on your body too. Like my hands sometimes at the end, like making those chain nets. I have these. Oh, shout out Danny Weird, another artist. Matter of fact, you guys should get him on this podcast. He's a custom clothing designer who also works with a lot of the same reggaeton stars that I work with. I actually did a hoop for his shop called P Victories. He gave me a special pair of pliers that I use to make those nets.
Okay.
They're actually cobbler's pliers. They're used for making shoes, and he gave me a pair, and I use them. But it's like the way you have to like open them and close them. By the time I'm done making those nets, like my fingers, I'm telling you, it's like it's a physically
workout,
demanding
yeah.
job. Art is physically demanding.
Mentally and physically.
I'm sure, yeah, exactly, both.
Yeah,
It
shout
is
out.
like when I sit and paint, once I hit about 10 hours, like my back is just done.
That sounds like, yeah, exhausting.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the artists out there. We'd love to have more artists on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're one of the first artists that we have, so shout out to you again.
Yay.
And I want to know, so what happened? What was it for you that led you to make that decision to just move to Miami and put teaching behind and do this full time?
It kind of got to the point where it was like now or never. I was like, you know what? It's now or never. I'm either going to do this and I'm going to give it a shot or I'm going to look back for the rest of my life and wonder what if. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Plus, I was like, there's no way I can teach here for another, like in order to really like be in it for the long haul so that you can retire with a really good pension, you have to do at least 30 years. I was like, bro, there is no way I'm doing another 20 years here. I'm like, there's no way. So it was just kind of like now or never. And then it just like personal things at home. I had planned to do it actually before that. I'm lying. Maybe 6 years before that, I was going to move to LA. I took an entire summer break. So like as a teacher, you have like June, July, August off. So I went and I lived those 3 months in LA. My best friend is a rapper who lives in LA. And I went out there and I rented an Airbnb and I rented a car and I lived there for 3 months just to see if I liked it. And I planned to then do the school year and then resign and move to LA and live with him. And then my dad got sick and got cancer. And that kind of like, you know, threw a monkey wrench into the whole plans of moving to California because it was out of the blue. He was like the most rugged, healthy, in shape guy, was hunting, had a blood clot in his leg, went to the hospital. They were like, you have stage 4 pancreatic cancer. You have 11 months to live if you're lucky.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. Awful. Like the worst thing in my life I've ever been through was watching that happen. So then that changed. So then I didn't move to LA because I wanted to spend as much time with him as possible. And then it was like my sister and I inherited his house, and his house was very close to my teaching job. So we were like, what are we going to do with the house? Are we going to sell it? And it was like, well, why don't I move into the house? You know what I mean? So it's just like life sometimes gets in the way of your plan. And then I never ended up moving to LA, and I taught for maybe another 5 years. Just kind of got like back into the, you know what I mean? Like the comfortability of the job but I'm here now.
I mean, yeah, you went through a lot.
And maybe,
at
you
that
know what?
point,
I look back and I think, sometimes I think, I wish I had done this sooner. Like, what if I had taken this leap and moved here sooner or earlier? But then I'm like, you know what? Maybe if I had moved here earlier, maybe I wouldn't have been as mature as I am now. Maybe I would have gotten caught up in the whole Miami-ness of it. You know, now that I'm a little bit older, I don't care about being out every night or, you know what I'm saying? So like maybe now it's better that I did it later in life as opposed to when I was like 25.
Yeah.
You know, like
everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, I think it just
So-
happened the way it was meant to happen, I guess.
For sure. I mean, you were going through a lot back in those days, and everything happens for a reason. You're here now. So how has life been for you since making that or taking that leap of faith and just being a full-time artist? And then how has that gotten you to make all these connections? Because I see that you're not only, you know, an artist, you are a big artist to big celebrities and big athletes that love your work.
Yeah.
So that says a lot within itself. So has that all happened within these 2.5 years?
In some ways it has. I think the reason my Instagram is Foss Moves, obviously it's like a take on Boss Moves. I just changed it to Foss because my last name is Foss, and that's by the way, so Foss is my last name. And it's what I go by as an artist. Like as an artist, you have to have like a cool name. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people have their art name, whatever it might be, their stage name. So I use my last name as my name. I also do that as a way to like honor my dad. You know what I mean? To like make him proud. Like he had an optical business called Foss Optical. And so it was like Foss was so much of his identity. Now I want it to be so much of my identity. And so it's like when I do these pieces for these like famous people and then on the bottom it says Foss, I'm like, I know my dad is proud. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
you know, so
That's cool.
that's another reason why I decided to like go with my name. But so when I was trying to think of what to do for my Instagram, I was like Foss Art. I was like, I don't know what to do. And then I came up with like the whole like Boss Moves, but I was like, I'm going to make it Foss Moves because I just know how to move. Like, it's something you can't like be taught. I swear one of my talents in life is just like being in the right place and being able to move in a way where like I'm going to meet the person I want to meet. You know, like so many times I've gone to an event like I'm here because I want to meet so and so, and then like the next day there's me and so in a picture on the gram, and my mom's like, you always do it, like you always make it happen.
I mean, it's funny because that's how you're in the Miami Hustle. This wasn't
Yeah.
through like a DM or anything. This was us meeting in person.
Yeah.
You know, shout out Myke behind the scenes, introduced us, and
No,
here
but that
you
has
are.
a lot to do with it. Having a good network, I think. I've always known people in high places. I think maybe it came from. I'm trying to think. Like my earliest connection might have been my college boyfriend. He played football for the university that I went to, and then some of his teammates ended up going on to the NFL. So then it was like, that's how I got connected into the NFL. That's how I know a lot of NFL players. And then it's kind of like once you know one, then you just kind of meet another. And then you're in the right place. And then I met my best friend who's a rapper. And then it's like he brings me places, and then I meet another rapper. And then so now you're in rooms with the right people. You know what I mean? And then once you're in those rooms, you're there. And it just kind of is like a snowball, and it just kind of builds upon itself. But it's really just like networking. You have to just get out there, network, meet the right people, meet good people who are going to bring your name up in the right rooms, people who believe in you, people who support you, people like Myke, but just moving the right way, and ultimately being a good person, doing good business, being a good person, being kind. I feel like when you're just like a good, real person and you work hard, and you're like, when you put out something good, like usually good comes back. Not always, but I think that has helped me in some ways.
Yeah.
And just kind of like the Miami hustle, just hustling, like meeting the right people and knowing, like, I don't go out just to go out. If I'm out, it's because I know there's an opportunity. Like, I'm not just gonna be out because it's a Friday. Like, we're at the booby trap because it's no. If I'm gonna be somewhere, it's because Ye is there. If I'm gonna go, it's because Floyd Mayweather is there. You know what I mean? Like, you have to have a purpose. You can't just be out to be out.
Speaking of Ye, I mean, I'm a big.
Should we do it? Should we take it there?
I'm a big Kanye West fan.
You have to call him Ye. You can't call him anything else now. It's so hard to, because the name Kanye West is so iconic.
I just want to let the world know that I'm a big Kanye West fan, and I'm a big Ye fan.
That.
Whatever he's been throughout his experience of life is crazy to me, and it's what most people won't experience in their life. So for others to judge him is a little ridiculous to me, and I honestly think he's a genius.
He's a polarizing character. Some people love him, some people hate him.
I think he's a genius when it comes to his music, but then also his way of being. When it comes to his marketing, his moves, like what he does and how he does it. But
yeah.
Anyways, shout out to Ye. But
shout out Ye, we love you.
I want to know, because I know you've met him, and we'll get to that. But I want to know who
best day ever.
The top 5 people that you have been able to either meet or do work with for.
Okay, so for me personally, obviously, being able to spend a day with Ye and his beautiful wife Bianca was like my life goal. That was always my life goal. That into great white shark cage dive. I love sharks. I'm a big shark enthusiast. That was obviously my number one, because Ye is like my artistic idol, and it's been my life dream for the longest to meet him, work with him, have him own my artwork. Now I can say I've done those things. I've spent an entire day with him. I don't want to talk about it too much because I did sign an NDA when I was there for the whole day with him and his wife. So just to like respect all the parties involved. But that was incredible to show him my work and have him take such interest in me as a person and my work. When the way it happened was that my best friend wrote on the album. My best friend who's a rapper, Ye hired him to write on the album.
Wow.
And so they were here in Miami. And so he was the one that like made the connection. And I wasn't sure what to expect. I didn't know how Ye would receive me. I didn't know how welcoming he would be. And he was beyond welcoming. And like I said, I was there for an entire day, and he took so much interest in me and my story and my work and my name. He loved my name. He was like, "What's your name again?" I'm like, "Foss." He's like, "Foss. I like that." And I was like, I like died inside a little bit. And he told me he liked my handwriting too.
Fire.
Yeah, that's a compliment. But that would be definitely my number one, knowing that like I can say like my idol owns my artwork.
Can you tell us, just for the people listening, how is he as a person? You know, when the cameras
I
aren't
think
rolling.
he was exactly the way I expected he would be. He's very funny. I don't know if people know how funny he is. He's very witty. You can tell he's very intelligent. Like, you have to be smart to keep up with him. You know what I mean? Like, he makes a lot of like jokes that if you're not the brightest bulb, like you're not gonna get them. They're just gonna go over your head. Very funny, very polite, bossy. Definitely, you know what I mean? It's almost like, imagine life is a chessboard, and he's moving every piece. You know what I mean? Very, very calculated, very in control of everything. But he was, like I said, he was so welcoming to me, and very like genuinely interested in my work as an artist. You know, how I knew the rapper, like how that connection was made, and it was great. He was great.
That's
He
awesome.
was great, and his wife was great. Me and her mom have the same birthday, and it was like, it was
Nice.
so natural. You know what I mean? It was. I still almost can't believe that day happened. I was like dying inside, but yeah. I really, when I was finally able to post the picture of us, because this happened in December, but because I signed the NDA because they were producing the album, I couldn't put out anything until the album dropped. So I had to sit on that for a long time and not tell anybody.
That's
Nice.
tough.
When I was finally able to, you know, I always knew like when it's time, it will be time. And then he kept pushing the album back. So I was super excited. I was like, yes, I'm going to be able to post it. And then the album would be delayed. And I was like, oh, man. But then it finally came out. But that moment really was so much for my students also, because I used to put like yay questions as all the bonus questions on my quizzes and tests, and my classroom had tons of yay stuff. Like, my entire door was all like yay memes. You know the picture of Ye when he has the phone and he's taking a picture of something, and like somebody had made it into a meme, and they were like me taking a picture of the notes on the projector, knowing I'll never look at them again. So like any yay meme that was related to school,
Sure.
I printed it out, laminated it, put it on my door.
Yeah.
I even had these two students that were, their names were Caleb and Matt, and they were big like hip hop heads, and they knew how much I loved Ye. And when they graduated, they gifted me My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, like the record, like the vinyl. They
Fire.
gifted me the vinyl. So a lot of like all my students knew how much I loved Ye. And so when I posted that picture, I was like, this is really for you guys, because you guys used to sit in my classroom, me being a teacher, knowing like my dream was to do my art and to meet Ye, and here I am. It might have taken me a while, or you know what, but here the fuck I am. I'm in Miami and I'm with Ye, and don't ever let anybody tell you that your dream is too much or it's unrealistic. Fuck that. Work hard, be a good person, do right by people, do good business, and it'll happen. They were like, you really manifested that moment, Miss Foss. Like, we are so happy for you.
I mean,
It was really for them. That moment was really like to show them, like, bro, we fucking did it. like really, I used to put like my bonus questions would be like, how many Grammys does Ye have?
No, for sure.
I even had a parent actually complain. She was like, my daughter doesn't listen to Kanye West, and therefore she's not able to get the bonus. I'm like, well, if she gets it wrong, she doesn't lose any points, but it's a bonus. Let me do my bonus, lady.
You manifested
Let
that
me
100%.
100%.
I really did.
And it took years. It took years.
So he
but
was
you
number
stayed
one. The
consistent.
other moment that for me was like a really big moment in my art career was the Jayson Tatum piece. So I'm from Massachusetts, but we say Boston, obviously. So obviously I'm a Celtics fan, all Patriots fan. Jayson Tatum is the biggest thing in Boston. I mean, in the NBA in general, Jayson Tatum is that guy. And he has a really good friend here in Miami who saw my artwork, fell in love with it, and commissioned me to do a piece for his 24th birthday. We came up with the idea together. He was turning 24. I don't know if you know this about Jayson Tatum, but he actually knew Kobe, like, growing up. Kobe was kind of like a mentor to him. Kobe wore number 24. So we got the idea for the painting. It was going to be him and Kobe, and like involving the 24 because he was turning 24. So long story short, I did this double portrait of Jayson Tatum and Kobe, and I flew up to Boston with the painting. I went to Jayson Tatum's birthday party. I met him, his son Deuce, his mom, was able to give him the painting in person. That was like a really big moment for me, like being a person from Boston, doing a piece, and not like a free piece either, because a lot of times artists, we have to gift work to people as like marketing. You know what I mean? So you gift something to us. Like, this was a paid piece at a very exclusive you know, Jayson Tatum's birthday party. The whole team was there. It was all like red carpet, closed to the public. Like it was that was a very surreal moment for me also. I was very proud because I've done work for a lot of professional athletes, but like Jayson Tatum's like another level. And especially because it's like home team. Exactly.
Yeah.
It would be like if you're from Miami.
That's
and
like us getting Haslam on the show.
Or like Jimmy
D-Wade,
Butler
or
or
Jimmy
Exactly.
yeah, somebody
he's
like
literally
that.
the best player on the Celtics. So
Yeah. So that was a huge moment for me. So he's definitely right there in top 5. There's a lot. I've done a lot of work for a lot of great people.
Shout out Myke Towers. I know you did some work with
Myke
Myke Towers.
Yeah, I made him a custom basketball hoop with his Young Kings logo. He was definitely one of my favorite people I've ever done artwork for. Just him, who he is as a person. You never really know what to expect with, like, you know, celebrities or really successful people, and just he was such a solid guy. You know, the way he treated me, the way he followed up. He was great.
Yeah.
Shout out Myke Towers. He's really a class act, like a really great guy.
And super talented.
He's my favorite Spanish artist.
His music is great.
He's one of the best.
He's such a good rapper. Same thing. I did work for Eladio Carrión. He's super humble, super cool. Like, I've never really had any bad experiences with any of the celebrities I've done work for. Yeah. I've been pretty lucky. I've never had like a bad.
What's really cool about your experiences is that, like, if you get to meet these people in general and you're just a random person, like, that's cool and all, but what you're doing is you're actually you're giving them your work. Like, there's like a mutual thing, like they're actually interacting with you rather than like, oh, I'm just meeting you, let's take a picture, and then like, no.
Yeah.
Like, the experience
and especially with a musician, it's like it's like appreciation from one artist to another artist.
Exactly.
So it's very cool to have somebody whose music you listen to while you're painting have a piece of your work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm sure it's...
So it's like, there have been so many times where I'm painting and I'm listening to Myke Towers. And then to think that, like, then he can go home and record music and have my work on his wall, you know, it's
even when
cool.
he sees it, I'm sure he feels something. When you see artwork like that, especially if it connects to them, like Kobe and Tatum, I'm sure every time he sees the painting that you gave him, he feels something for it. So you share an experience, but then also the feeling. So that's cool. That's
and to
amazing.
see them have it in their home. Like, years ago, I did a family portrait for 2 Chainz with his kids.
That's big.
That's a huge name too.
Chainz.
You just pulling out all the names.
Yeah, Ab-Soul is a really good friend of mine. I don't know if you're like into hip hop, but he's really big in the hip hop community. He's a big supporter of mine. I do a lot of custom clothing for him for like all of his tours. I paint all of his custom clothing, make clothing for his music videos that he wears.
As a self-made artist, I feel like there's a lot of artists that are looking up to you at this point. So what advice would you give to those artists that are listening and they're watching you like, wow, she's worked with all these big names and they feel as talented, but they just don't know what to do or how to go about that? What advice would you give?
Shoot your shot, man. Shoot your shot every time. You miss all the shots you don't take. That's like my biggest thing. One of my biggest clients, I don't know if you guys know who this man is. His name is Dezer. He's a billionaire real estate developer. He literally, you know, like the Porsche Design Tower.
Okay. Yeah.
He built that.
Really?
Bentley Design Tower. He's building that. All like the whole, basically the Miami City skyline in Sunny Isles Beach as well as in New York. All the
Porsche
Trump
Tower
towers.
Is so raw.
I found him on Instagram through a Kanye fan page because he knows Kanye, and this guy never posts his face. He puts his arm like this, neck like up on the person with his watch. He has like an Audemars, and he never shows his face. That's his picture. And so I was on this Kanye fan page, and I'm like, who's this asshole with his arm around Kanye? I'm like, who the fuck is, so I clicked on it, and I'm like, oh shit, this guy lives in Miami. So I'm looking at his page and I'm like, oh, okay, this guy has all these like expensive cars. You know what I mean? He's uber success, like the most successful real estate developer ever. And I had just done this Rolls Royce painting, and he owns like 15 Rolls Royces. I just DM'd the guy. I DM'd him and I was like, hey, I see you're here in Miami, and you know, I can see that you're into luxury vehicles. I just did this Rolls Royce painting. Check out my work. Never in a million years thought it would ever lead to anything. Like 4 weeks later, the guy hit me up and was like, could you build me this money? I don't know if you saw the money tables that I make. Mm-hmm. I'll have to show them to you on my page. So I make these like tables, like coffee tables out of money. And he was like, yeah, I like this painting, but I want you to do something different for me. Could you build me a money table? it was I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but I was like, I sure can. I was like, I can do whatever you want me to do.
Yeah.
And long story short, I ended up building him a money table for, in all of the buildings that he's built, he usually will like keep like a penthouse unit for himself. And so I did it in Midtown at the penthouse. I built him my first money table. And then about a year later, he hit me up, and he was like a good friend of mine who owns, he lives in the Porsche Design Tower. His name is Alan Wildstein. He's like a big luxury car importer, exporter. He said, hey, my friend saw my money table. He wants one. This is his number. Hit him up. So then I went and had a meeting with him at the Porsche Design Tower, and I built him a money table for his car showroom at the Porsche Design Tower. And so, like, none of that would have happened. Those are my two biggest, outside of the painting I'm doing now, those are my highest 5-figure pieces that I had ever done. And I'm talking like big name Jewish billionaire moguls.
Yeah.
Like, I have artwork in the Porsche Design Tower. That's incredible to me. And the guy that built the Porsche Design Tower has my artwork. All of this only happened because I DM'd him. That's it.
Yeah,
I just sent this guy a DM. I shot the shot.
It's funny that you say
Waited
that.
to see what happened.
It's funny that you say that, and you make mini basketball hoops.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a coincidence or not.
Maybe, it
But
might be.
I say that all the time too. I have a mini hoop here, and I always say you got to shoot the shot, and always shoot the shot. And I'm always out
Shoot
here
the
literally
shot.
shooting shots because. I mean, that's literally how this podcast was built. At first,
Yeah.
it was nothing but DMs. Well, when it comes to people that I didn't know and I wanted to have on the show, but I didn't know them personally and I didn't know somebody that knew them, it was a lot of me shooting the shot and seeing, it's kind of like fishing, you know, you just throw out the bait and see who would like to be on the show, who actually saw the message, who responded, and then go from there.
Yeah, you really have to, because it's not going to come to you. That's the thing. Nobody knocks on your door and says like, hi, do you want to make a podcast? Like, that's not going to happen. You have to really go out there and get after it. So shoot the shot. That's my advice to anybody. Shoot your fucking shot. What's the worst that happens? You miss? DM the people. What's the worst that happens? You know how many people have DM'd who have never written back to me, who have never
Not
even
yet.
opened?
You said this guy wrote back after 4 weeks. You never know.
It took like several weeks. I even
It's
think
like
he might
planting-
have, he even might have opened the DM and then like didn't respond to it. And I was kind of like, aw.
But you planted the seed.
And exactly. And then it was like out of the blue one day, he just like hit me up and was like, hey, could you have a meeting with me? I want to discuss this money table. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. So just shoot the shot, send the DM, whatever it is. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? The person tells you no. All right, well, fuck you. Keep it moving to the next person. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep. That's how it is. And we're coming up on time.
you
but
can't be afraid or like afraid of failure. And that's easy to say. People might look and be like, yeah, well, that's easy for you to say. But even still, I still have moments where I doubt my decision, or, you know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, right now, we're in a very tough time. We're in a really tough economy. You know, like, business isn't booming every single day. When you don't have a traditional career, you have good days and bad days. You have slow season and high season. You know what I mean? It's like you have days where you wake up and you sell a bunch of things, and then you have days where you wake up and you're so stressed out because you haven't sold anything, and you know, it's hard. It's hard. And I feel like with being an artist too, there's a little bit of vulnerability in like doing your work and then like doing a show and having strangers walk by and look at it, and sometimes people like it and sometimes people don't like it, or they like, you know what I mean? Like, you're really like putting yourself out there, creating something and letting other people judge it.
Your story is amazing, from your teaching days to then also your art days. I feel like we got you early because you're only getting started. It's been 2.5 years that you've been in Miami. So the best is literally yet to come. My last question is always, what does Miami mean to you?
Opportunity.
Okay.
I feel like that's my favorite thing about Miami, is just the opportunity. There's so much opportunity here. There's always something going on. There are people here with money, so there's a good client base to sell your work to. There's literally something happening like every day. Like, it's a really happening city. So there's a lot of, you have to go to where it's at.
Sure.
You can't like make something out of nothing. I don't think I could have done this if I had stayed in Massachusetts. Like, there's no way. When I go home to visit my family after like 24 hours, I'm like, oh my God. How could I live here
whole
so
different
long?
life.
Once you
for
live
sure.
this kind of lifestyle,
But I
it's
miss the
tough.
seasons. I miss not having seasons because I'm from New England. We have fall and winter, and like here
Yeah,
it's
we
just
don't have too
hot
many
all
seasons.
we have no seasons
Yeah.
here.
We have the
We
rainy-
don't have
we have the
too
rainy
many.
season.
We have Nam season. That's just hot and hotter.
I mean, I love it. I can't imagine
wish
being
I
anywhere
did.
else.
I
I've never
wish.
seen snow, so I don't.
Really?
And I don't even mind. But yeah, I feel like we got you early because your career is about to take off even more. I just can't wait to keep following you. Anyone that is listening, what is best way to follow you? Is it
On Instagram, Foss
Foss?
Moves. Like Boss Moves, but with an F. Foss Moves.
So we're gonna definitely keep following you and your story.
Yeah, and we're
your
gonna make
journey.
you a hoop for your.
I would be honored
a
to
Miami
have
Hustle hoop.
any art from you. Would be an honor, and I'll definitely let everyone know once they come to the
$5
Miami
million
Hustle.
for that one right there.
I'm working on it.
It's
I'm
an
working
investment,
on
no
it.
doubt.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
It is. No, artwork is absolutely an
100%.
investment, especially if you believe. I sold a painting to a couple. They had a very interesting story. But they bought my work and they said, we believe in you and we think you're going to be big and we're going to buy this right now.
Yeah.
They said, and one day we're going to say, we met this girl when she was just starting out. Like, and I was so honored that they felt that way.
I didn't, but yeah,
That's a cool
art
feeling.
is an
Yeah,
investment.
they were like, you're
and
going to be big. We can feel it. We believe in you. They're
Yeah.
like, we want to get in now before you're
Yeah.
too expensive.
I would definitely
Well,
believe in you
we
too.
obviously
and your
feel
art.
that too. That's the reason why you're here.
So shout out to you again. Until next time, you already know. Hopefully we have you back on a
I would
couple
love
months
that.
later or a year
Please.
later. We talk about where you were last time you were
Here,
here.
shitting on hoes.
And
No, I'm
yeah,
joking.
just keep shitting on hoes. You already know.
No, never. I'm
hell
joking.
no.
But
No,
yeah,
but I would love to come back and honestly, you never know
We'll
what
see.
tomorrow is gonna bring.
Yes,
when
you
we have
never
Ye
know.
here, for sure you'll be here too.
can't wait to
So-
have you back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll have Ye here and Myke Towers, and I'm speaking into existence right now, even though I've said this hundreds of times, and he's probably tired of hearing that. But we'll have those big names on. We already have Foss Moves on the
Speak
show,
it into
so
existence. I literally have a shower curtain that is Kanye's face hanging in my studio.
all right, I haven't manifested it that hard, but I'm gonna have to
That's
get me.
hard.
A,
I
I'm
showed
gonna
it
have
to
to get
him
me
too.
a Ye
I told him, I'm
curtain.
like, I have a shower curtain with your face on it. He was like, let me see.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll keep manifesting. I gotta buy some stuff, but yeah, until next time, thank you so much
Visualize
for
it
your
and it will
time.
happen. Shoot that shot, ma'am.
Shoot the shot. That's how we'll end
Thank
it.
you so much for having me on.
Always
This
shoot the
was
shot.
great.
Always.
Always.